Okay, so that actually wasn't so bad. I think we made it just back just about on time. Get rid of those banners and whatnot, and let me bring in with me as always is my trusty TA Al Baca. Say hi, Al Baca.
Oh, I don't have it in me tonight there. I'm sorry. The throat don't want to work tonight.
The what doesn't want to work?
Throat.
Oh,
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
hack up those hairballs. I'm sure they happen for Wookiees.
Well, when you clean yourself, things happen.
I don't know if you caught my little pre-show on the art stuff there, Al, but I neglected. I had so much planned. I just didn't start early enough. But I was going to show them. I was very excited, and I just ran out of time. But I was going to show them the moment that Big Al became more than a friend. He became a brother. And that was when he sent me for Christmas the art of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Big, thick, hardcover book. It's got concept art from the action figures. It's got art from the old mini comics. It's got art from the Filmation series, of course, even from the film they did, the new series they did, a couple new ones they did. It's wowza. I was going through it earlier today because I was going to show some things, and you're the man, Al.
I remember that. Yes, I was like, he must have that.
Of course, Al's got this thing where he's got gift anxiety. It's very hard for him to give somebody a gift because he doesn't know if they really want it or not. So every holiday or birthday, he always sends me a message. Would you want this for your birthday or for Christmas? And I'm always like, yes. And so I remember getting that gift. Do you want this? Yes,
I never know. I never know if someone wants it, has it, needs it, or he has like 3 on the shelf or something, and I get a little nutty about it. This is the way I am.
Hey, it works for me. Either way, I get an awesome book, so I'm good with that. Good with that. How was your day?
It was a day.
Was a day? Quiet?
Yeah, it was a day. Just kind of did my thing. Shampoo, shave, so
good to know.
That kind of thing. One of those kind of days.
Yeah. So we've got chapters 13 through 16. Did you get a chance to read them all?
Yeah.
Good. That would be awkward if one of us hadn't read the chapters that we're supposed to talk about. Of course, in the chat, I see Tom Spiegel already saying, I fell behind. Don't start until I finish these next 50 pages. Yeah, I get it. I totally understand. But these book studies are as a service to you guys. And even though we're doing them live streams, you can catch them whenever you want because they stay up on my channel, as long as YouTube doesn't take them down, like that one idiot time. But yeah, so no worries if you're running behind. I never want it to be a stressful thing, like, got to do this before that week or something, So it's all good. We're here. And I know a lot of people tune in having not even touched the book, and they don't plan to touch the book. They just like to hear us talk about it, and that's okay too. Whatever gets my channel views and thumbs ups. So we're very humble here.
I could say so many things, but I
won't. All right, make sure I got there. All right, so we did leave off on a pretty big cliffhanger last time. You remember that, Al? The Lando in Zerba in the warehouse?
I sure did. They were taken.
Yep.
And taken. A rescue was about to happen.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing was how Zahn left off the chapter was that Zahn lets Lando lose all hope because Lando figures if we get in that warehouse, there's no rescue because any firefight will bring the warehouse down on top of us. So he loses hope, and then we cut to Han thinking, okay, now give the word, they're inside. So, he just doesn't know what Han's plan is.
He just believes Han has a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Until the doors closed, then it was kind of, we're screwed.
Pretty much. Exactly. So chapter 13 opens up with the plan in motion. And I like one of the things we're going to talk about, last time we kind of talked more with thematic stuff about the different festivals of the 4 honorings and whatnot. One of the things we're going to focus on in these chapters is some of the cool character arcs. We're really seeing them take on, get more traction. And again, we talked about how Zahn's got a whole team here. It's a heist. story. So we have Han, Lando, Chewie, characters we know a great deal about from the movies and stuff. We have Winter and Kel, people might know more things about, from other books. But to my knowledge, not all of these characters are incredibly developed elsewhere. And even if they weren't, even Han, Chewie, and Lando themselves, to make this piece of art stand on its own, it needs to have their own little mini arcs. And I think we've got that. So first off, here we get Kel. Remember, Kel is this young guy. He works for Mazik. He came on board with Winter. Mazik recommended that these two, would help them out. And no one really knows what he can do. He turns out to be good at bombs and good at droids. So he's used his expertise thus far in that. But he's still kind of the untried in battle, the kind of the little egghead kid who, people don't really know what his salt is. Of course, when he said, I can fly a Z-95, they were kind of questioning it until Winter had to step in and say, no, yes, he can do it. Take him with you, so. Mm-hmm. And we get him on this. I like the fact that we don't know what Han's plan is until we see it. We see it in action. We find it out just as Lando does. That's good tension as well, because this is an omniscient narrator. He could have jumped into Han's mind and told us everything that was going to happen, but that would kill it, So I like Kel is flying this Z-95. The waiting was over. He was going into battle. Maybe not the intensity of combat that haunted both his dreams and his nightmares, but combat nonetheless. And with the end of the waiting came the end of at least some of the doubts. He'd worried that he would hesitate, or worse, freeze. He hadn't. He'd worried that he might not be able to handle a ship, that for all his earlier confident assurances, he'd had little experience with outside of game simulators. It seemed to be working fine. He'd worried that he might turn tail and abandon the mission. So far, that hadn't happened either. He'd worried that he might not be able to face death for the sake of his teammates. That one, unfortunately, still lay ahead. And if and when it came down to that, he still had no idea how he would react. So we've got this idea of he's passing his own tests thus far, but there's still, he still has reservations. But I love this next part. But he didn't have to know, not yet. Courage wasn't a matter of taking the whole mountain in a single massive leap. Courage was taking it one step at a time, doing what was necessary now, preparing for the next step, and refusing to worry about whether some step in the future would be the one that would break him. And that's so true. That's what we see Lando and Han and everybody doing instinctively. This is how you survive as a scoundrel, as a gambler, as a smuggler, as whatever. You the courage to take that next step, to win that next fight or whatever. And Kel's, we're seeing that. So even this little bit of interiority here, we didn't even need to have him fussing over it to begin with, because we have so many characters to juggle. We can just give him this little moment in his mind with him as he flies this ship in. And that makes him a three-dimensional character for the context of this story. We get where he is, what his journey is. And that's good. That's good juggling of a large group of characters like that. Would you agree?
He's kind of having a WWJWD moment. What would John Wayne do?
What would John Wayne do? Yeah.
I can't remember the exact quote, but there's a John Wayne quote is like, courage is like, you could be afraid, but courage is, saddling up and doing it anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can be scared, but true courage is doing it despite the fear. Mm-hmm. And so he's kind of having a little John Wayne moment, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good way of putting it. I forgot to read one more thing. So he checks on Chewie, because Chewie's supposed to be in the background. He's supposed to be giving some info to Chewie. So he said there was an acknowledging roar, wordless confirmation that the Wookiee was in position behind him. And maybe that was the real secret to courage, Kel realized suddenly. Someone at your back, and the assurance that you weren't facing the mountain alone. So again, this is a team. They need each other's skills, and yet they're a team of scoundrels. So there's always questioning who's going to be the one to fall or betray or something or whatever, So, but you need that person at your back,
Yeah, and he has a good one.
He does. He's got he's got Chewie. Chewie's the best, right?
Darn right.
I love that we didn't talk about this last time, but the two Fallines are that grabbed Lando and Zerba are called Wolf and Folks, which is basically just wolf and fox. He's just playing with those, words, which I like. It's kind of a almost like a Pinocchio kind of reference or something. Daniel Heron for $2. Thank you, sir. What would Brian Boitana do if he were here? Who is Brian Boitano? Why am I blanking on that name? Who's that, Al?
See, this is why you need to watch South Park. You'll get references like this.
Oh, I don't know.
Brian Boitano is a very flamboyant figure skater.
Okay.
And in the South Park film, there was a song, What Would Brian Boitano Do?
I'm very glad you are here, so I don't have to watch South Park. See how that works? Back to the drawing board. Says Kel's moment in this chapter really shows Kel going from child to adult while still setting up his character struggle for later. He's not a coward. He's afraid he's a coward. Good point. Yeah, and I know that some of you, I think maybe you back to the drawing board and some others have actually read and are familiar with his story after this. Like I said, I'm still getting there. I'm still back in the Old Republic days in my Star Wars EU reading, but I'm looking forward to finding out Kel's further growth after this book. All right, so you said that he believes Han has a plan, and he did. Then the doors close. Now this firefight starts, and Lando's falling back on that again, telling Zerba he's got a plan, Lando insisted, peering up at the ceiling. And he's seeing the whole building fall down around him. He's like, nope, he's got a plan. He's got a plan.
That's faith in a friend, man.
I know. But the next paragraph, we're in his interiority, because if that was the plan, it was a rotten one. You know? I love that. But he's still, what else can he do, right? So Zerba's trying to, and you got the tension building. Zerba's trying to undo his shackles as well. The Faline are making their way over. They see what's going on. The Z-95 busts in. This is this really well-shielded speeder. It busts in, or ship, and is able to get a lay of the land. So he radios to Chewie, in degrees. This is where friendlies are over here. Fires over here, enemies over here. This is where you need to make the target. So he gives him some coordinates and where to make the target, and then he basically blasts his way out again. So very cryptic. What's going on here? And the fire thus far, it's a rickety old warehouse, but thus far it's not bringing things down. It's not designed or aimed to really bring things down quite yet. At the end of that little part for Kel, says, but Hans, are we in Lando or Chewie's part here? Yeah, we're in Kel's mind still. The far wall was coming up fast. The plan was for him to fire another burst, make a new hole, and get out before he got himself shot down. Instead, he pulled back on the throttle, doing a quick skid turn to kill his forward momentum and coast to a stop. It was risky, and Chewie probably would have something to say about it later if they all survived. But Han's plan was so insane and the execution so impossible that he just had to stick around and see for himself if it actually worked. Some things in life really were worth risking everything for. The rest, well, it was always a judgment call. I like that last sentence because what is he talking about there? Some things in life really were risking everything for. Is he really just talking about seeing whether this plan is pulled off is worth risking everything for? Or is he talking about making sure they're safe? And I would argue that's where it's leaning, but it's a cryptic, because I see the meaning there either way.
Why not both?
Why not both? There you go. Where's Troy with his meme here? So yeah. Now we jump to Hans. Oh, let's see, Adam Post is here too. Welcome, Adam Post, sir. Good to see you. Into Han's interiority now, and I think Al will like this part because you've got Han's great faith and what he thinks about Chewie. Says Han clenched his hand into a fist because Chewie's in the Millennium Falcon and Chewie's making his approach now. Kel has given him these coordinates. Chewie was one of the best pilots he'd ever seen, but this was the sort of gamble even Han would normally dismiss out of hand. That's right, yeah, not do it. But when you had no other choice, you had to go with it. Come on, Chewie, he muttered under his breath as the ship shot toward the hole in the wall Kel had made. The opening was way too small for the Falcon to fit through, of course, and there was no way for any of them was going to try enlarging it because the building would fall down. But you see the Falcon approaches, and just as it gets to the building, it flies upwards. And Han says if anybody wasn't watching, they'd miss it, but it shoots out something into the building. So Chewie was there to deliver something. That was the coordinates that Kel was giving him for. And of course, it ends up being a escape pod from the Millennium Falcon. Escape pod that can handle atmospheric re-entry. Of course, it should be able to handle a building falling on top of it. So that's I like it. It falls close to them. He was halfway there. Zerba caught up. The cryodex case clutched tightly his chest. Where are we going? He panted. Inside, Lando told him. He dropped to one knee beside the pod and cycled the hatch. It's Han's idea of armored sanctuary. But it's only one passenger pod. It'll be tight. Lando agreed as the hatch popped open. You can stay out here if you'd rather. Zerpa didn't bother to reply. So I like this fact that they get through. It's a crazy plan, right? I mean, it really is. Lando was expecting them to do a smash and grab before they even got to the warehouse, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that they waited, and the fact that they did what they did was crazy. It was nutty when you really look back on it.
Yeah,
there was precise. There was, I mean, well, yeah, they needed absolute precision from everybody. I mean, from Kel and Chewie and just everybody it had to work out perfectly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Orlando and Zerber were toast.
Exactly. And that's the trust in each other they had to have, for each of them to do their job, for Kel to really be able to fly that, and for Lando to, or for Chewie to be able to make it. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. Before we get to the end of this, we jump over to Deja, who of course is our Imperial agent who's there to bring down Black Sun, and he's undercover. He's been feeding information to Inger. So it's kind of ironic, but a agent of the Empire is there to serve as sort of their guardian angel as they pull off this heist, because pulling off the heist for them, getting their credits, would open up things and make it easier for him to do what he wants to do as an Imperial secret agent or information agent, intelligence agent, whatever. And he's trying to figure things out. He doesn't know what the plan is. Of course, he gave the information to Inger to tell them where they were so they could do something, if anything. And he does pick up on one thing, though. He notices that the Falcon flies in and then flies away. Doesn't come back. And he says that means the freighter was the one item Inger's team had brought out here that they weren't intending to abandon after the rescue. So we'll see if that comes back. But little lessons there drops. I do like it when they eventually smoke clears, debris clears, the enemies are scattered. Obviously, the whole building's coming down, and they're getting out of the pod. I like that. He says, "Thanks." Lando grunted as Han helped him out. "Nice move, by the way. I gather that was Chewie and the Falcon." "Yeah," Han said, looking around. The devastation looked worse. "Figured if you got winged by the pod, you wouldn't be as mad at him as you would be at me." "Probably not," Lando said. And they help Zerba out. Zerba's like, "Never do that again." And at the end, I like it. Winter's there. Han turns. She was staring at the dented escape pod, an odd expression on her face. "They're designed to handle deep space atmo penetration and bumpy landings," he reminded her. "I figured they could hold off anything the kidnappers had with them." He waved a hand upward to the stars showing through the wrecked roof, and that too. "It did seem to do the job," Winter agreed. "I was thinking more what would have happened if Chewbacca had missed." "Lando probably would never want to see me again," Han said. "Come on, let's go." Because that's Lando's thing, right? At the beginning of this, he never wanted to see him again, and when we meet him in Empire Strikes Back, of course, he's not really happy about, or he doesn't know if Lando's gonna want to see him again and stuff. Thought you were gonna do the Empire line again.
I know. I thought about it, but
keep a little surprise going on. I understand. So we move on. This is a long chapter, so if it seems like we're spending an inordinate amount of time just in chapter 13, the rest of the chapters are shorter. We'll breeze through those. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. So the big deal, you think of terms of tension and pacing. They pulled off a little mini heist at first. That's good. They're working up to the heist. Now, this one was laying the groundwork for the actual heist, bluffing Villagor, making him believe they have another cryodex, and really laying the groundwork and starting the bluff, the Festival of Moving Air. And then this happens. Big, seemingly wrinkle in plans. I mean, this is a problem, But I like it. Inger asks, "So where does this leave us? What is this? What does all this mean for the mission?" "Nothing really," Han said. "Whoever was behind it all he knows is Lando's got an impressive organization behind him, and that's the story we were pitching in the first place." So that's a good way to ratchet up tension, throw in something that's unexpected, but it doesn't always necessarily have to ruin the plans each and every time. I mean, you should have complications. That's part of an escalating plot, an escalating tension. Complications, you have to recalculate your plan and stuff like that. But you want to do it to where it's, somewhat not so predictable. So they can still keep the same plan here because it actually plays into what they were doing anyway. So, I just got my hi, sweetie, from Netter's Network. Hi, Netter's Network. Had to acknowledge that. One does not overlook that. delivered Winter to a Target's room in an escape pod in the inside of a warehouse. Chewbacca is the best delivery Wookiee, Tom Spiegel says. You might like that,
Yeah.
So they have this. So then, okay, Al, what do you think about Villagor's vault?
Good God.
I know you like his paranoia.
It's like vaults within vaults within vaults. Kind of.
I know exactly. Tests within tests. Yeah, vaults within vaults.
And I'm trying to picture. I really was having a hard time picturing it.
It's so complicated. It is kind of hard.
Yeah, I was like, because they kept going. It's like, well, there's this, and then there's a sphere, and then there's that. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got first of all, there's this glitter coat which is on the ceiling of the room. The ball, we used to be a ballroom, so glitter coat means you can't just cut a small hole in that no one will see because it's going to go everywhere. So that's the first wrinkle. Then Rochelle says, "Oh, you're going to love this." She keys the data pad. The Zed police droids are there. We end up finding out that that we know they've got neuronic whips, as Lando found out. But Kel tells us that the uniforms these security droids are wearing means that any one of them could actually be a human inside. So if you can't just put all your reliance on a droid neutralizer because one of them might be a human or more might be a human. So you've got to more to take into account. So the glitter coat, more to take into account with the security.
Also, killing a droid is one thing. Killing a human is something else.
Exactly.
In a firefight.
Yeah, exactly.
Although droids' lives matter too.
Droids' lives matter. That's right. Then we find out because of this all-spectrum sensor that they had implanted with Lando's little scheme there, they found out that Villagor, he places his fingers in the sensor. He's not actually typing anything in. The sensor is sniffing. It's a scent sensor, and it's a certain cologne that Villagor has. So bringing in some more senses into the play. And so we got the glitter coat. Droids are humans. Now you have to have a right cologne to get in. And then we find out the vault itself. Here's the safe itself, she said. It's a 6-meter diameter sphere. The outer part made of Duracrete poured over a whole metal mesh. A sphere sounds a little crazy, Winter said. Crazy like a Twi'lek, Zerba said sourly. A square or a rectangle has corners you can cut off for a quick entry. A sphere doesn't. Even with a full-length lightsaber, it'd take you forever to whittle a hole enough to get inside. Makes sense. And you probably run into honey traps along the way, Tavia points out, because of that hulled metal mesh that's poured over. And we learned honey traps before when she was doing her ghost thieving. Or you got the little holes in the wall filled with maybe poisonous gas or little triggered explosives, little things to deter one who might try to carve their way in. So even more problems with it. Then, not only is it a spherical vault with honey traps, with all this kind of stuff in it, but the whole thing's constantly rotating, so you have no way of being able to cut in from the top or from the bottom, so another level there. It's a tactical challenge. What else is it? The safe is set up in it's just a special metal the actual safe is inside the vault, that can't be really cut into easily.
Hajarna stone.
Yeah, Hajarna stone, I think is what, yeah, exactly. Tavia, back when we first started this thing, someone mentioned the possibility of tunneling in from underneath. The other obvious approach is cut through the ceiling and try to drop in from the safe from above without the guards spotting you. With the safe constantly moving, though, around the room, both of those tactics are now useless. So, again, trying to figure out what to do. And then they found out, too, that there's an up... Oh, go ahead.
So this thing's actually moving around the room, not just rotating. When it's actually moving?
I thought it was just rotate, but it's on repulsor lift, so it could be doing either. I mean, in theory.
Oh, good grief, man.
They've got this afternoon's code. Now they find out the code that he actually does type is constantly changing. And I like that the whole time through this, poor Dozer. Dozer's getting so discouraged. So now we have to read his mind too, because they figured the code, it couldn't be something that a computer generated because it'd be too easy to hack into the computer. So it has to be something personal, some sort of system that he would know. So they said dates from ex-girlfriends or old battle wounds or something, anything like that, something personal to him that he would know. So they said, we don't have to read his mind. We just have to read his past and try and figure out what that could be. I like that later. Yes, Rochelle said, "Oh, except the room directly above the vault is the guard ready room, where village or security people hang out when they're not on duty. Luckily, most of them will be on duty during the honorings." Han pointed out. "Thanks, Rochelle. At least now we know what we're up against." "Yeah, I'm sure going to sleep better tonight," Dozer growled. So you get that light of sleeping better tonight. That's important. What's going on. They know that they can't use, or they say they can't use Lando anymore because he's been spotted by whoever these Falleen were that snabbed him from Villagor. But after the whole meeting, after everybody goes back, Lando says, "No, you need to keep using me, because if that was enough to scare me off, then they'll know this organization that we're claiming to have isn't all that we're claiming it is." Makes a lot of sense. Again, the ultimate gambler, ultimate bluffer. That's his tactic there.
Yeah, he needs to prove he's unshakable, and that something like that is just, well, that's nothing.
Yeah,
I have people that got me out. See, I'm here, and
yeah.
I am the unshakable Lando Calrissian.
Exactly. Or what's his name? Verb. The name that he gives. Quirv, and then Zerba's bib. Yeah, that's right. The reference to the Hutt, the Jabba the Hutt's henchman. Then you have this weird little exchange at the end there where Inger stays behind too and tries to argue, because at first they're thinking, well, they have these tabs, these files on blackmail. If we were to receive those, they could be worth even way more than the actual credits we're looking for. So maybe we can just try and get him to move the credit tab, the files or whatever. We can grab them someplace more easily elsewhere. Han puts this forth while Inger's there. Inger doesn't like this at all. Inger's very adamant that we need to go there. We need to confront them there. We need to break in. We need to go there at his vault as it is state. It's a little bit of a over insistence on this. It's kind of mysterious to us as readers right now, because Inger's the one, of course, who hired them in the first place, who they robbed from. Villager actually robbed him, he says, and gave him all these wounds and whatnot. So
yeah, he wants to go straight in, frontal assault.
Yeah. Casey Scott said, "How many obstacles does this guy need?" That's what I was thinking.
He's super paranoid, man.
He is.
Like, well, what if they get through that? Well, okay, we got to do something else. Okay, now something else around that. Repulsor left.
Exactly. Back to the drawing board. Says half the fun of the heist is how many layers of security the bad guys have. Yeah, I mean that's you don't want to read a heist story about someone who just breaks in and steals money from underneath somebody's bed, right? I mean, it's got to be all these layers and stuff, and there has to be reasons for it, which I think Villagor is justified in his paranoia with all of the goings on between Black Sun and all the other enemies he might have and stuff. So it works, but yeah, he's a paranoid little guy.
Yeah.
Son Engraver says this vault would be a great boss fight in Donkey Kong 3. At least that's what those repulsor lifts under the vault reminds me of. Oh yeah, those old games with the moving islands up and down and stuff. Yeah, that was a lot of Mario, and heck, it's even Kingdom Hearts and stuff now with the non-2D strollers. But so at the end of this, Inger goes his way. They say, yeah, whatever. Han has this little encounter with Rochelle as they leave, and Rochelle asks, "It's starting to come apart, isn't it?" I don't know, Han admitted. "Maybe a little. I never bought into this whole Quasati story that Inger's buddy pitched, at least not the part about him being one of Shizor's top people. But if he's really the guy in charge now, he might bring down the hammer faster than we thought." I like the idea that Han, again, is a leader. Han's not ruffled by any of this. He's the one who said, "Nope, this is all fine. It serves our purpose anyway. Maybe things are falling apart a little bit, but they'll be okay." I mean, we're really seeing that's Han's growth. For us who know he still has a ways to go before he stops being the smuggler or whatever. I mean, in Empire Strikes Back, he's finally back with the Resistance, but here he's fresh off of A New Hope. He had a little moral victory going back to help Luke, but he's still in that in-between space in his journey. And I like the fact that we're seeing leadership really bud and blossom in him as a nice little journey for this book in particular that fits his greater journey. So why did you tell Inger? Or she says, that he's Villagor would never move the files. Nope, no chance of that either, Han agreed. "So why did you tell Inger that was the new plan?" "Mostly to see his reaction," Han said, standing up. Again, so what did you get what you wanted to see from Venger? Han said, "Yeah, I think so. Turn out the lights on your way to bed." And we're ending chapter 13. So long chapter, but it opens with Han's plan, which is successful, and ends with Han's direction as a leader. So a a good thematic tying up to fit it in one little arc of a chapter at least.
Yeah, I just love that there was finally some action.
I know Al doesn't like all this planning. I want to see people blow stuff up.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to say about chapter 13 before I move on?
No, but like I said, she made the comment about it all falling apart. It does seem like they keep coming, like there's always more and more bad news like coming out as far as what they need, what they're going to need to get through.
Yeah.
And maybe not coming apart, but they definitely know that this is just not going to be a piece of cake. This is going to be a tough assignment.
Yeah. And that's the test. I mean, that's the test for them is all of their skills as the heroes for this book. And it's interesting too, that even though they're scoundrels, they're thieves, they're con artists, they're gamblers, all this kind of stuff, smugglers, they're not victimizing some good person. They're in essence, they're actually trying, and as far as they know, they're trying to win back money that was stolen from some poor guy. Of course, they want their cut. So even though they're scoundrels, they are still the good guys. That's a nice little way to fish between the shades of gray there. As a narrative too for characters that are supposed to be roguish.
And of course, you say that they're supposed to be helping some poor guy, as if it might change in the end of the book somehow.
We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Again,
spoilers.
It does a good job of making it so you suspect Inger at times. Now here we Dozer, he's already had a confrontation with Han before, and now Dozer's off on this other little mission where he's acting as the quicklime courier service guy again, who's delivering credits to different guards in the pay of Villagor as possible blackmail credits. And he says Han had promised that the man would simply listen, take the package, and let Dozer walk away. Han was always persuasive, but he wasn't always right. So again, Dozer is trying to trust Han and, do this job. So he delivers these things. Still, Dozer had 2 other guards on his list to follow home as their shifts ended. Maybe one of them would be gracious enough to accept the bribe. Hopefully none would be discourteous enough to shoot him in the back. So again, even with Dozer's insecurities and misgivings, he's still having to trust the plan, trust the leader. So now we see Mr. Harris's Donkey Kong 3 is a funny beehive on his head. I never played Donkey Kong 3. I know that's my retro gamers are gonna be very angry with me. Tom Spiegel says sounds like the only chance they have is a crossover with Mission Impossible and White Collar. Something like that.
I had that theme going in my head.
Sounding Guru says my noir radar went off when Han said what he said to get a reaction out of Inger. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the quick pithy dialogue and people with different motives or hidden motivations trying to decide them. And Santa Gary says book studies are not rewatches, Al. No spoilers. That's true. But Al doesn't. Al, we're just putting possibilities.
I don't know. I've never read this book, and I haven't read ahead. And
That's
I haven't looked
for
ahead
Al.
either.
That's something for Al.
I am enjoying the ride.
Back to the drawing board says poor Dozer, always with the risky jobs. Yep, he always get because he was supposed to have Lando's job, right? And since Lando showed up, he's just kind of picking up the slack with all these other things, which actually it works out well. That of course they're things that only really he could do with his own skill set, which is good. Stealing ships and little con artists and stuff.
That's something kind of silly from the last chapter when he's just trying to eat a sandwich. I couldn't help but think, I wonder what kind of sandwich he's got.
I don't know. It's usually some weird alien food they talk about.
Yeah.
So then we have this interesting new break back to Shikoa. Now remember, Shikoa is Villagor's head of security, and Shikoa was there with Villagor when Lando and Zerba came to meet him, as posing as these people with the cryodecks and whatnot. Well, Shikoa wakes up in the middle of the night with a knife at his throat, and it's Quazadi, the Falleen, who's there as a higher up above Villagor, who's there to check up on him as the agent of Black Sun and so forth. Shikoa knows about, or wants to know about, what these visitors were, because it was Shikoa's men who, Wolves and Folks or whatever, were from Shikoa, or from Quazadi. I'm sorry. So Quazadi knows that Villagor had these visitors and wants to know what the deal is. Shikoa has to tell him. Shikoa's got a knife at his throat. He knows he's a Falleen. He can tell when people are lying and stuff. So
he's got those pheromone things happening.
Exactly.
Now, a question about the Falleen pheromones. Can they control the mood that they put people in?
Yeah, they can be seductive. They can make you afraid. Okay. Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, I was just making sure. Yeah. That's why I thought. I just wanted a second opinion on that.
Yeah. So it's this dark room. He just woke up. You can imagine your eyes barely focused, and you got this wicked-looking Falleen pinning your arms and holding a knife to your throat, questioning. So Shikoa has to tell him exactly what happened, but he insists that that was Villagor's backup story should they be found out. And Villagor wasn't even 100% decided one way or the other anyway, but that he could always say he was trying to find out if they really had a cryodex so that he could report it or gain it for the Black Sun. Still loyal to Black Sun. That's the idea. Of course, the kicker is you find out after he tells all of that, Villagor's in the room too. And Villagor was there because Shikoa's testimony, one way or the other, was a real test for Villagor. So Shikoa basically vindicated Villagor. But yeah, afterwards, in the end, he still feels bad. He feels like he betrayed him by saying all that. But what could the poor guy do, And then Villagor says, he's right about the honoring. We'll be alert and whatnot. Go back to sleep, he says, and leaves, just like Han told everybody to go back to sleep. And like that, Shikoa had no idea what the decision was. Slowly, he rolled over onto his side, like he was really going to get any sleep now. People just break into his place and hold a knife to his throat, and not so much. So that's a very short chapter 14 that we're finished with now. Anything else you
No, you almost feel bad for Shikoa a little bit.
Yeah. He's a loyal guy, right?
Yeah,
he's not engaged in any crime or anything. He's just trying to do his job for his boss.
Yep. Just wake up in the middle of the night with a knife to his throat. And
I know.
Pheromones being all flowing over him.
I know. Netters Network says, every time I hear Dozer, I think Fraggle Rock. I thought that too the first time I read it. I got conditioned away from it, but yeah, that was a constant association in my mind as well. Melissa Harris listing some Donkey Kong games. Sounding Graver says, don't ever marry a Falleen. Yeah, that'd be a little manipulative and dishonest. I think that'd be difficult to get through.
I wonder if you hang around a Falleen, if you could build up a tolerance.
I bet a Falleen and a Zeltron would make a good couple, because Zeltrons also have very irresistible pheromones and stuff like that. That's why Conquerors never stay long on Zeltron. They always end up giving up war and just joining in with the Zeltrons, loving and all that stuff. Troy Pacelli says, yes, anything that can be influenced chemically in the body. Emotions, desires, sensations can be manipulated by pheromones. Yeah, so they have the control over that. So just seconding up there. All right, chapter 15. I like I know you'd love this, the way chapter 15 opens. Mm-hmm. It had been said that there were only 3 absolutes in life: death, taxes, and bad liquor. But as Lando strolled across the Marblewood grounds, he decided he could add a 4th to that list. When you travel with a Wookiee, people would move out of your way. So Lando's got Chewie by his side at the Festival of Moving Water at this point, because he's been marked, he's been tagged, and they're watching for him and they recognize him. But as he tells Chewie, they're not going to make a move here. They're more interested in questioning us before just killing us. So Chewie's kind of a security thing there for him, But so we're back on the scene. Our players are back out on the scene here in chapter. What chapter did I say we were? 15. Yeah, second to last for the night. Yeah, so Lando and Chewie are doing that. All right, now we jump over to Bink, and Bink is still playing Shikoa. So we remembered it was really interesting how she plays this dippy girl, wants his attention and gets his attention and stuff like that. But she also wants him to know she's up to something, and she's able to succeed with that. And of course, he just told Quazati about her. Quazati gives him orders to stick with her. You stick with her to make sure what she's up to, if she's connected, and so forth. And she's trying to do the little flirty thing with him, of course. She grabs his hand at one point, but it's his gun hand, so he pulls it away. She says, I'm so sorry, Bink apologized, screwing up her face into her best embarrassed wince. Look, I can see you're not in the mood to just relax and have fun. Maybe I'd better go and let you concentrate on your work. He's so poor Shikoa is terrified. He's been ordered to stick with her, but he's also like the littlest false move. If he looks like he's being duped by her in a little way, that could cause trouble for him. So he's got to remain like he's sort of interested in her, but also, so he's no, that's fine. We're fine. Let's hang out.
I mean, the man could have a worse assignment.
That's true. I mean, he's got this beautiful woman on his arm who's at least her job is to remain like pretend she's so interested in him. But he does pull this little fast one. So she's wanting to go do this one thing. He says, no, let's go over here to try this food or drink over here. Sounds interesting, Beak said, a small flag waving in the back of her brain. He was up to something. New orders via his collar chip comlink, probably shifting her grip on his arm. Bink snuggled in a little closer. If the comlink speaker hadn't been focused correctly, she might be able to get close enough to hear what was going on. And of course, we find out that they want Shikoa to bring Bink over to where Lando is to see if there's any recognition on their faces, to see if Shikoa can pick up any signs that they know each other, hence working together and so forth. Then we have, which is really interesting, I think here, for the first time, we have Han on the stage. Han has been in the background pulling the strings, orchestrating things as the leader. Now we have Han playing a role himself. So it turns out we couldn't just stick with Lando doing the bluffing. We need Lando, Dozer, and Han, as a third place anyway. So Han approaches Villajor because remember, Villajor wanted to meet with Lando's superior. Well, Han's not going to just say I'm that superior because then he would need to do certain things or need to make certain calls that would blow the plan. But he's a higher up anyway, and coming to make sure things are safe after that, capture.
I love his conversation with Villajor though to get him to take the smile off his face, basically.
Yeah. And I like that Han is Lando was the honey to get Villajor to take the bait. Right, Lando had to be very flattering and very sweet and very alluring, not literally, but in the plan wise to get Villajor interested in the possibility of this second cryodex. Han comes in and Han's laying down the law. He's in more of a place of authority in the system because he needs to make Villajor think that they are powerful. They do have a system of authority. So it's so as you were saying there, he got it. Villajor's I suppose not. Han said. He moved a step closer and lowered his voice. What about the blackmail files? You going to bring them out? Villajor's smile vanished, and both bodyguards shifted their hands to their concealed blasters. Excuse me, Villajor said quietly. Easy, Han soothed. I'm just here to talk. Then talk fast, Villajor snarled, hissing out of the last word. Did you bring the item? No, and I'm not going to, Han said. Not after what happened 2 nights ago. So again, just a kind of a, authority, thing there going on. But it ends up working, right? They come to a deal, they come to a compromise or whatever, but it ends up working. They're not just at Villajor's mercy. And Han says he sees the cracks starting to show in Villajor. If they had more time, he might even agree to betray Black Sun, So, then he finds out that so he trusts Lando and Bink. They're professional enough; they're not going to give anything away. But they find out that they've spotted Dozer as well. And Han's not so sure Dozer's going to be able to, not give any cues that Shikoa might be able to pick up. So, let's see where I am here. They end up. Winter tells Kel to get Dozer out of there. This is interesting too. So we've got Rochelle and Winter a little back and forth while Zerba's there, fitting the gown on Rochelle because she's the same size as Bink and Tavia, who are actually going to wear it. But so Winter tells Kel to get Dozer out. You sure? Kel asked. He could play hide and search for a long time without Shikoa ever catching with him. Out and now, Winter said tartly, her memory flashing with the faces of all the rebel operatives she'd seen push their luck too far. Okay, Kel said defensively. You don't have to shout. You want me out too? Only if you're spotted, Winter said, scowling to herself. She shouldn't have let the memories get the better of her, especially not with Kel, who was going through the same agony of loss that she was. Sorry. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll get him out. So a little bit, Winter's she's always got it together, but we can see that she's got emotions too. She's human, especially with all of these memories of the people that have died and whatnot. But Kel himself, being Alderaanian, is dealing with the loss of his homeworld as well. So I like that little human moment there,
Yeah. And like I said, everyone she ever met, knew, saw, those faces are in her head because of her memory. Every single face, and she knows that. And I think at this point she doesn't even think Leia's alive.
She doesn't know. Yeah, she's trying to find out. Yeah, and of course, with her work for the rebellion, a lot of those faces she knows have died, or maybe she's even seen some of them die and stuff. So yeah, she's got some baggage. She's got some trauma, definitely. I like Rochelle. Rochelle has just been our sort of our oracle, our Overwatch of the team. And I like this little humanizing moment here because when Han first contacted her in like the second chapter or whatever, she was a little flirtatious with him. But then you bring in Bink and Tavia, who are the young and pretty, twins, ghost thieves and stuff like that. And Tavia's busy, Bink's busy. You're their size. Zerba reminded her because he's fitting her with the outfit. I know, Rochelle said with a sigh, but there's something fundamentally wrong about asking a woman to stand for a fitting when she's not going to get to wear the dress. Again, I just like those little human moments, and he promises to make her one. But then we have a cool little conversation between Rochelle and Winter. Again, just trying to bring the different members of your team together in different aspects. It's a lot of characters, so you can't give each one an incredibly in-depth arc. But not only do you need to give each one of them little key moments of interiority, you also really need to give each one moments with each other so that we can see the team coalesce, and it's not just each one of them reporting back to Han, So a nice little moment where she's asking about what are some of the things that you do with Mazik and so forth. And we learn a little bit about what Winter's doing there with Mazik, working with him and such, as being an agent of the rebellion and so forth. So we see some of Zerba's clothing work here because Kel gets him outside of the perimeter there. As Dozer slipped momentarily out of sight, Winter tapped her comlink's call key. Without breaking stride, Dozer shrugged off his brown jacket, flipped it inside out to show the blue and silver jagged slice pattern on the other side, and put it back on. As he settled it over his shoulders, he pulled a fold-up hat from the jacket's pocket and jammed it onto his head. So they got all these little, tricks and tips or whatever. You can imagine these are from Zerba and so forth. Excuse me. Checking the chat if I missed anything. Troy talking about the pheromones. Troy says, where do you know Zeltrons from if you haven't read classic Marvel Star Wars comics? They're in the EU, actually. They're in the EU quite a bit. They're in the games. They were in Obi-Wan, or Kenobi rather, that I read recently. But I guess they got their start in the Marvels comics, huh? That's cool. Good.
He also says there's such a thing as bad liquor? ? Oh yes, there is.
Troy knows no bad liquor.
There's bad liquor out there, trust me.
All right, moving on. What are we next here? So Han is still working with Villagor. He comes with a consensus.
I just love the Project Runway feel of that little section. Little,
the back room models getting fitted and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that makes Zerba, what's his name? The host, or I don't know.
Tim Gunn. No,
Tim Gunn, that's right, yeah.
Make it work.
So then Han wraps it up with Villagor. We still have Bink and Shikoa. I like how she's playing him at the end of the day. So she has to go. She makes up this excuse. She gives him a big warm hug. Thanks for everything. His first reflex was to go stiff with surprise. His next, a fraction of a second later, was to start to relax and enjoy her touch. His third, an even shorter fraction of a second after that, was to remember he was on duty and gently but firmly push her away. I like that little, talk about being conflicted. If Villagor is conflicted, poor Shikoa's got it trickling down to him too with his work.
Yeah, he liked it. Come on. How could you not? She's cute. I mean, look at the picture.
And then she figures out that scent. She caught a scent on him that she couldn't quite place, and she figures it out. She said he's being cute with her because it's a tracking die. So the idea is if she were to steal anything from him, or palm, the key card or whatever from him, that she would have that scent on her hand, that tracking die or whatever it would be on her hand when ultraviolet light would show it. So another little level of security there. And we're going to see what they do with that. It's kind of cool how they play around that in a bit in a further chapter.
Mm-hmm. Simple, diabolical, and virtually foolproof.
Now we have this little quiet moment with Villagor. And I like this because poor Villagor, tests within tests and all the paranoia and how to navigate this and that. And he's trying to figure out, okay, obviously between Quazati and between Quirv and Bib, they're trying to back him into a corner where he doesn't feel like he can do anything else. Standing on the presentation balcony, drinking in the noise and the sights, Villager permitted himself a moment of quiet gloating. He does have one more hand to play. And this is so interesting. It's so out of nowhere. He ends up calling the Empire. He ends up calling an Empire contact on Wokar there and trying to maybe arrange something with Vader, because if he turned over as an informant to the Empire, obviously he'd be protected by the Empire and he'd be quite valuable for all they know about Black Sun and whatnot. And that brings us to chapter 16, which is Deshul, like, is this a joke? And Deja, they're shocked that he actually did this, because this would mean everything they're there for wouldn't, like, they're, mission accomplished. All right. Hey, we got, he's just going to turn over himself, so that'll be fine. So is this a joke? Is this something that could really happen? They don't know. They're kind of weighing it out, saying, he's probably keeping us open as an option, but we need to keep Inger and his group, as an option as well. So they, get a little bit of tactical stuff there in chapter 16 at the beginning of it anyway. Did you have anything to say about that before I move on? Because I am going to go on to Bink here in a second.
No, I'm good.
So then we go back to the to their suite there, their base of operations, our team, and Bink and Winter have a moment. Now remember, Bink and Winter Tavia and Winter had a moment last time in which we got a little bit more of the relationship between the sisters there, and how Tavia was saying, yes, Bink, loves her, is very protective of her and so forth, but Bink has a way of keeping her at her side and sort of coming in between her and any legit work she might get or something like that. And Winter starts to question her about it a little bit, because Winter, being a nice person, being a very, compassionate mom, trying to fix things or whatever. Winter, so they're asking about her work. Oh, she's good at her work, all right, Bink said. What she's not so good at is realizing just how nasty the universe around her really is. Winter frowned up at her. There was a deadly, serious expression on the young woman's face, one that Winter hadn't seen there before. I don't follow. Let me give you an example, Bink said, an edge of bitterness in her voice. I assume she told you about the Riverwardic electronics company? Not by name. It's the one she usually trots out as an example of me scuttling every decent thing that comes into her life, Bink said. The pay was good, the boss was happy with her performance, and she really enjoyed the work. On the surface, it seemed perfect. So what was wrong with it? What was wrong was that the place didn't exist, Bink said heavily, or at least the place she thought she was working at didn't exist. The whole operation was nothing but a front for one of the Hutt syndicates. So you find out that Bink has been checking up on all these things and not actually telling Tavia about it. That's interesting. So she doesn't want to jade Tavia's perception of the universe like her own is. It's just really complicated, but honestly, a really true, and I'm not a sister. I have a sister, but I'm not a sister. It's a special relationship. Those of you who have sisters who are sisters. I know Sonia Graver has a twin sister we were talking about, just like Bink and Tavia here. And I know some other ones of you have sisters. And it's a relationship, I see it with my nieces, for example, so young. Man, they can be so bitter and competitive with one another. But if they dare perceive that you've hurt one of them, oh man, the rest of them jump on you like they're fiercely loyal. And I can see Bink being fiercely loyal and protective over Tavia to the point where she doesn't want her involved in something that would go awry or be harmful to her in the end. So she goes back and does these checking for it, but she doesn't want to tell her about it. So she'd rather have Tavia think that she's mean or she's awful, keeping her to herself, than have Tavia's view of the universe or the galaxy darkened. And it's not an honest thing to do. So you can argue it's not the right thing to do, but it does make you appreciate Bink's care and protection of her sister, at least,
Yeah, and I like how it reminds Winter of Leia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The two of them, who are probably as close as sisters without being. When she says, oddly enough, she realized that she genuinely did. She and Princess Leia had both had that same youthful innocence wrenched from their souls by the struggle against the Empire.
Yes,
it is kind of like when you have an innocence like Tavia has, and you love that person, you want to protect that innocence for as long as you can. So I see where Bink is coming from.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you pointed that out and you brought out the because that is a nice thing to close on here as we end out chapter 16. But Winter, in her own arc, so we see Bink and Tavia, what's going on there. But again, part of her, she grew up with Leia. Leia was a sister to her, basically. She was always Leia's, second, there. So yeah, not knowing where she is right now and the protection she must feel of her, and what we know they're going to end up doing, end up being together and very close, with the family and such. So it's a nice little place to end the chapter. So again, the focus for these 4 chapters was just really trying to look at, if you're writing a large team, if you've got a huge cast of characters, which, you can have a huge cast of characters anytime you're writing a novel, but you might just only be focusing on 2 or 3 as your main characters, like we saw with the Thrawn trilogy. But if you've got a major team that's all playing in the unity of action within the unity of time, so they all need to be very present and quick pace, then you do need to give each of them a little mini arc, but you have to juggle the time and real estate on the page because you have a lot of them. And this is a good example of how to do so. Troy Pacelli says, I had no idea that the Zeltrons had made the leap to the greater EU. Yeah, Dany was my Star Wars waifu in my early teen years. Don't know the character, but yeah, as soon as I get into the Marvel stuff, because I do eventually want to, absolutely, we'll compare notes. That'll be fun. And back to the drawing board says, Villager. I like that Troy talks about his waifu from his teen years. And I like that Netter's network tags him with a heart. That's true love.
Probably tag him with a frying pan later.
Back to the drawing board.
Talk about your waifu again.
That's the worst Netter invitation, by the way.
Well, I'm doing bad evil Netter.
Evil Netter. I don't think, is there such a thing? Does Netter have an evil side?
The mirror Netter.
That's right, mirror universe Netter. Okay. Back to the drawing board. It says Villager is playing a classic hand in these kinds of games. In the immortal words of Qui-Gon, Jim, I summon a bigger fish. Yeah.
I'm picturing the mirror universe Troy, where he has no beard and a luscious head of hair.
Troy says, "You think Netter's network would don a pink body paint for me?" Dude, she dresses up like a Klingon for you. I can't imagine not much else being off the table. You guys are cosplayers. You guys, it's all in the pot. So that closes us out then for these 4 chapters. Next week will be 17 through 21. Let me take a quick look.
20.
I'm sorry.
That's a nice little chunk too.
Yeah, let me take a quick look at the page real estate to see if we might want to slip that down, because we are nearing the end. All right, there's 17, not too bad. 18. Give me a second. I'll sing a song or something while I do math. Might be a while.
Why do fools fall in love? Why do birds sing so? The break of day. Why do they fall in love? Oh,
it's not. Well, let me see how long chapter 20 is.
I mean, it's a good chunk, but I mean, it's all doable. I mean, it's doable, but
well, we have a lot of people behind. I don't mind making it just 3 chapters. Let me see what the final chapter count is in the end. Get through that. What is our final chapter here? Chapter 24.
Well, it would be 60 pages with, if it were 3 chapters, and if we add 21, it'll be 80 ish, almost 80, not quite, but almost.
No, we're not going to add 21. We would just do 17, 18, 19,
no,
20.
I mean add 20. I'm sorry.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm just trying to look at the pages, how much they look at. Yeah, okay, we'll just do. Okay, we will break it up a little bit for folks. We will just do 3 chapters this next week.
Okay,
so there we go. So 17 through 19 is the chapters for next week. That give everybody a break. Everybody seems to be falling behind a little bit from what the chat's saying and whatnot.
Mark that.
So yeah, just 3 chapters for next week, 17 through 19, and we'll finish that out. Oh, thank you, Troy. Yeah, the Star Wars Facebook group. Yes, look in the chat there. Troy has dropped a link. He has a Star Wars group. Come join our little corner of the fandom menace as we do our part to restore Star Wars and overthrow the reign of Kathleen Kennedy. And he's got the link there to it, so you can click on that and join. Very cool little group that Troy started up a while ago, and kind of slowly, did some stuff with it or whatever. But it's just we're picking up again lately. Let me got so many notifications going off here. Anyway, cool, really cool cover photo art too with Thrawn there. Thrawn, the decisive Star Wars villain.
Hashtag Pellion's better. And Pellion's still alive. His throat may hurt, but he's still alive.
Sound Engraver's happy about 7 through 19. Good. I think we made a good choice there. Tom Spiegel says, according to your boy Zach, Mary Jo Duffy wrote the most worthy Star Wars comics. Hers begins at number 70. Yeah, I haven't read any of the. I guess you're talking about the Marvel ones. I won't read the current Marvel ones, but the classic Marvel ones, yes, and the Dark Horse ones, of course, that were part of the EU. But Marvel before that. Oh yes, Thrawn. Everyone loves Thrawn.
See, Sound Engraver and I understand that Pelion is the true brains of the operation.
The little henchman who can't do anything without his boss. I see.
And he's alive.
Well, Thrawn, I mean, we got the Hand of Thrawn duology at some point. I haven't read that yet, but Matchstick says Goblin Slayers. We watch the 26th. All right, well, let's go in order, and I will make sure I get to your Goblin Slayer. Definitely. Cool. Yeah, Thrawn. Troy did some Photoshop to create that Thrawn cover. Very cool. Okay, so coming up, this is Thursday. Tomorrow, Fanman is doing something, right? He's going to do like a shorter rewatch or something, I think. Is that right?
He's doing something. He told me he was doing something. Not quite sure. He's trying to figure it out tonight. He's not quite sure what. He wants to watch something.
And then,
but who knows?
Okay. And then Saturday is Happy Accidents on Netter's Network, actually. Netter's Network channel. Happy Accidents. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there tomorrow night and Saturday night. I have Alyssa, so I will be around via Messenger and hanging out in the Facebook group. So people come by and join the Professor Geek Facebook group. You can hang out with me and stuff like that. But I'll be probably balancing between schoolwork and editing together some of that art stuff from the pre-show. So that's tomorrow night and Saturday night. Sunday is a Weeb Watch. No, it's not a Weeb Watch this week.
Nope.
Next week will be the Goblin Slayer he's talking about. But Monday, Sound Engraver. Not even going to play. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Sound Engraver. Coffee break at around 9-ish usually, depending, whenever she can. But another light one, I think she said this time around, kind of more impromptu. The last one worked out really well, sort of conversational with the chat. A lot of good things. She did some good points. So that's Monday night. Definitely check that out. And you can grab the link there from the chat. Troy is very studious, dropping all these links. Much appreciated. And then Tuesday, we are going to be back here for another Tuesday Night Noir, Out of the Past. Excellent classic film noir. Robert Mitchum. Even a young Kirk Douglas.
Ooh.
Yeah, a very young Kirk Douglas is in that as well. And, of course, Jane Greer, who I said, remember we watched Double Indemnity, I said that Barbara Stanwyck is in the running for my favorite femme fatale ever. The other one in the running for it is Jane Greer in Out of the Past. The two of them are just, nice. Wow, that really fine acting, really fine portrayals of a femme fatale. So, yeah, that's Tuesday night. And then we'll be back here on Thursday, as I said, for chapters 17 through 19.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from you, Al?
Nope. Next thing I've got is Saturday the 25th.
Okay. Sounds good. And we will get you, I'm really wanting to get you, or I'm looking forward to when you get back into a situation. Obviously you can't now, of course, but get back into a situation where you can do some of your afternoons with Al, because they were so great.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Might turn into an early evening with Al.
Hey, there you go. Early evenings with Al. That sounds a little seductive. Early evening with Al.
Al after dark.
No, I will never tune into something called that. Al's racy enough before dark.
Hello, my Al pals. How you doing tonight?
Stop it. Okay. All right. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks for humoring me during that pre-show art thing. It does seem like some people were somewhat amused, so I'll edit together some stuff and I'll keep trying out some of those little videos.
I'd like to have seen it if I'd known about it.
Well, I put it in the Facebook group. I said I'll be going early for some art stuff.
See everything. I have other things that I'm doing.
Well, priorities, Al. Priorities.
2 seconds your messenger bump. That's all I needed.
It will definitely be edited and put forth as its own video, so you'll be able to actually catch the meat of it without all the intros and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's coming up. All right, well, thanks for hanging out for that. Thanks for hanging out with the book study. Those of you who are reading along and those of you who aren't, always great to have you either way. And until next time, I guess I'll see you next week, but you'll see these guys and whatnot soon. And until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.
Pelion lives.